Hello everyone. Hi. Hello. Good evening. Good evening everyone. I'm just waiting for a couple of seconds for some guests to join in before I just patch in my guest for today. So quickly till then, welcome to For the Love of Design presented by ICA Pidilite Premium Italian Wood Finishes. I'm Kamna Malik, I head India Design ID and I'm also the brand director of Elle Decor India. And today I'm going to be talking to somebody who has been one of the game changers in the architecture and design industry, Jimmy Mistry. Just give me a second and I'm just going to patch him in. Hey.
Hi.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, Kamna. Hi.
How are you?
Good.
I see you're already sipping a cup of coffee or tea. What is that?
Coffee. My
Okay.
usual time for coffee.
All righty. So tell me this, I know I've been seeing a couple of your posts that you're doing off late, but how's the lockdown treating you? What have you been up to?
Well, the lockdown surprisingly has kept us very, very busy.
Mm-hmm.
The first couple of days went into kind of getting a grasp of the situation and what magnitude will be impacted and affected. Working
Hmm.
out case scenarios. I'm talking especially with respect to my hospitality business. We have
Correct.
about 1,650 employees there, so that's a worrisome area. And soon enough, we began to understand this is for you to stay. It's not going to be a 3-week lockdown. We put a
Correct.
plan of action of learning into place, and each day we spend close to about 3.5 hours of learning exercises. And we got external faculty members and trainers. About
Hmm.
150 of us do this learning sessions, and it's been a wonderful experience getting to spend so much of quality time, not only at home and with family, but with people closest to me with whom I spend more than 75% of my life is my work colleagues, and
How
we,
nice.
we we very deep into it. It's been a great learning session.
Tell me this. You've been doing so much even in this lockdown, but have there been any personal introspections which are now going to influence your design process moving forward?
Yes. So okay. So yes, our design processes are being refined. Whenever you get into a learning process, you begin to take a step back and realize the situation from a little far off from a macro level and say, okay, what is it that we are doing right, not only in hospitality, in the world of design, because we were about to launch the new baby that we've been working on for the last 5 years, which is Della by Jimmy Mistry, and that is going to be a game changer for us personally and professionally both. It's to do with the world of design. We're putting up a 50,000 square feet monobrand store of Della with 2,500 products of Della design, which we've been working on and accumulating for the last 5 years. We've upgraded both our factories where we are manufacturing. So all these things, suddenly we were in the rut of it. Now we're taking a macro view and we are
Correct.
streamlining things that we started off with.
Right. The world is slowly opening, the lockdown is now being eased out, and everyone is adapting to new realities. But and the thing is, things just changed overnight. If I have to talk to you about architecture and design specifically, what according to you is going to be the new normal?
Nobody knows what the new normal will be. It's so
Okay.
dynamic, so dynamic. Specifically to the world of architecture and design, I think it's a good jolt to the Indian design industry.
Mm-hmm.
Architects and designers were not used to collaborating and working together.
Correct.
Architecture field, yes, there were some projects which are happening on a collaboration basis, but the world of interiors, I've been talking about it for the last couple of years. I'm sure you heard me talk about it. Interior designers do not collaborate and work together, and
Right.
that's something that needs to change. This lockdown, the Black Swan event, has compelled us to change and look inside and say, look, dude, we have to collaborate. If we can collaborate sitting at home with our own people, why can't we collaborate with other designers?
Right.
And it's a great learning that's happened. Like the telecom industry, at one point in time, India came from an archaic age and leapfrogged ahead. I'm
Hmm.
sure this Black Swan event will make sure India leapfrogs ahead in the world of collaborative design. Designers will start viewing things very differently. They will now start investing into people work from home, investing in their systems. They'll be investing into cloud-based working. All the softwares would turn into SAS models. Even now, a couple of architects work with outdated AutoCAD LT versions just because they had purchased it 10 years back. Now things will really begin to change. And a collaborative effort, once it starts working from home and people realize the advantages of really doing it, design is a profession that you can really implement 70% from home. 30% collaboration is required. So you do your work, come back, collaborate in a common platform, again, go back, do your work. So this is my take on it. Indian design industry is going through a sea change post the lockdown is lifted, and it's in a positive direction for sure.
Right at the onset of this conversation, you mentioned, and which is a fact, that your large part of the business is also hospitality. And that is one industry that has been massively hit right now. And it is going to change a lot moving forwards. What are your thoughts on that? What changes would you want to be seeing implemented?
Hospitality industry is in a disarray right now. I'm a member on multiple forums. In fact, tomorrow I'm moderating a session and getting our tourism minister, the young and dynamic Aditya Thackeray, to speak to the Federation of Hotels and Restaurant Owners of India, Western India. It's going to be an interesting session to hear. Hospitality industry had never imagined something like this, like all other industries. But hospitality industry can see the writing on the wall that they are not going back in business, unlike the way other industries are going to. The day unlock happens in a period of a couple of weeks, they'll be up and rolling. Hospitality industry is not going to be up and rolling. And even if it goes up and rolling to the tune of 15%, 20% in the first couple of months, there is no guarantee that we'll not have to roll down our shutters just because there is one or two guests who come in and infected a sterilized place. And none of the hotel owners are ready to deal with that. The staff is also not ready to deal with it. There's a certain kind of mental psyche. Yesterday, I heard a hotel owner say that we are using our hotel property in Jaipur for quarantine, and one guest has tested positive, and all the employees have refused to work in the hotel. These are going to be realities of the day. Hospitality industry is going to grapple with these. People who adapt to these changes and remain true to the core of getting in core competency in the world of hospitality will sustain and survive. People who do not understand this dynamics are going to perish. The government hasn't helped out in any which way. All the announcements, the whole hospitality industry used to be glued to the television screens like a cricket match, literally like an India-Pakistan cricket match. And each day it was disappointment after disappointment. It's a difficult situation for hospitality industry, but we are working out ways and means at Della for always, because we've got adventure, we've got counterterrorism training, we are into experiential hospitality, and we are trying to work very strong and make sure that we do have a comeback and we do have a future in whatever form it is going to be, but we will definitely have an advantage over the rest of the people in the hospitality industry.
You mentioned, and that is the new reality in any case, that hotels are suddenly being utilized as quarantine spaces as well. Do you see hotel design particularly changing and becoming a lot more multi-purpose in nature? Or do you think that, the design is not going to get affected?
No, hospitality design will get affected. Currently, all the projects will be stalled. Even the financial institutions have decided to put hospitality as a back-end burner, as a negative industry to invest in. So all the projects are going to be reevaluated. And in reevaluation, first thing owners are going to look for is the money that is lost in the cost of capital in this lockdown period and the business that will be lost. How do they compromise on the project and reduce that money? So every banker is going to ask for cutting of cost. Every owner is going to go through cutting of cost. So that's going to show in the design of projects. One. Second thing, customer requirements will change. Like after 9/11, we saw security being installed throughout. Now we will have not only just thermal cameras, face recognition, as much of automation, voice activation and elevators to be installed, as much of automation. The hospitality industry will learn a lot from the hospital industry and the pharma industry. So one change you will see is hospitality industry. Hotels used to always to be cleaned and deep cleaned and polished at night. Now you will see housekeeping people in the daytime working in the face of customers, because customers will want that reiterated, yes, this is a safe place for me to be in. So these are some of the psychological changes. See, physically everything is going to remain the same. You might go through ozonized sprays. Ozone is going to be used extensively for this as a disinfectant medium. UV lights are going to be used in baggage trolleys to disinfect the baggage and the packages people carry in and out of the hotel. So that's one more game-changing thing you're going to see. However, I'll caution you over here, the right usage of UV lights is important. Every blue light is not a UV light. Design community needs to understand this. Every blue light is not a disinfectant. So you need the right UV lights with the right power supply and sources at the right frequency to disinfect an area. That's one. Hospitality industry is also going to see a lot of change. Buffets are going to no longer look the way foods were lavishly laid out and spread. Again, we'll go back to the old days where every dish was served by somebody, even in a buffet, which had changed in the recent past. And those changes you'll see in office cafeterias as well. The only way a common community dining can happen or any kind of a buffet can work is if there is a service person on the other end of the dish. So the layout of buffets and the spread of buffets is going to drastically change. Food stylists are already working on it very hard. We all are following it. FFSSI norms have been altered and changed. And I think it's a very dynamic place for designers to keep upgrading their level of knowledge, understand what value they can bring forth to their customers. For that, the design industry has to recalibrate. Recalibration is the word I use over here. Reset, recalibrate. Because the designers had not upgraded their knowledge in the last 10, 20 years, 30 years. Some of the architects, we all know who we are talking about, are sitting in their offices with their egos of elephant-headed egos on their heads, thinking they've really achieved it. They need to go back and learn and get into a learn, unlearn, and relearn process. The entire design industry needs to learn because it's very dynamic. Each day, so till yesterday, to give an example, we were talking about face recognition cameras and access control systems. Even I was talking about it. Till the time after my talk, a friend of mine sends me a message and says, Jimmy, there's a new technology that now allows the cameras to do face recognition in spite of mask being there. It only works on this area of the space. So that's a learning. One needs to incorporate these learnings non-stop and deliver values to the customers.
Absolutely, because I think if design does not change, it's going to be a massive effect on there, because it's at the end of the day spaces that people are living in too. And if homes and offices and hotels do not offer that, that is something that I think the design community will have to rise to. You know, I'm so glad you've touched upon these topics for hospitality. But you know, there is one more thing that India never knew was work from home. That was one culture that we never ever understood. And suddenly overnight, everybody had to adapt to it. And now we are questioning it, we are evaluating it. How do you see offices changing? Do you think suddenly we will understand work from home?
So let's take the typical office scenario, how it would change from the entrance to the exit. Everything is going to be altered in offices. First of all, the sizes of offices is going to drastically reduce in spite of more square footage of area being given due to social distancing norms within the office. The sizes of offices will reduce. That's one. It's a given. People can keep arguing till the time the cows come home. It is going to reduce and time will tell. Entrance, access control systems, thumb scanners will be replaced with face recognition access control systems. We get into the office, you will be going through a disinfected tunnel, which is either an ozonized water spray or any other kind of disinfectant use. Your baggages will have to be put through a UV trolley where you can go ahead and disinfect your bags so that you are trying to isolate it. Offices will start operating under a hub and spoke approach. So if departments and departmental heads can be moved, offices can be departmentalized and zoned, which we were all these years, we were trying to remove partitions and make it as open and transparent as possible. Now partitions will come back again. And if you can mitigate your risk doing department by department, for example, if it's a large office, let's say a typical floor plate of 20,000 square feet, the company would never allow itself to be vulnerable to a case or two within their work environment. And with the result, the whole office and operations shutting down for the next couple of days. Now they'll mitigate it by zoning the office. So if they can create multiple entrances, they will even prefer that. Finance moves into one zone, HR moves into one zone, operations moves into one zone, call centers move into one zone. Even within call centers, they'll try and partitionalize it. They'll have to redo their air conditioning to some extent, because today's day air conditioning systems were not zoned out and they were only done with effect of power control and trying to reduction of power consumption. But now air conditioning systems will have to be upgraded. Filters will change. More. We may not go in for HEPA filters, but more filters which can filter out to a larger extent of microns will be applied. TFA units will change. All those air conditioning units that are pulling raw fresh air inside will now it will be compelled to have TFAs as a fresh air inlet into the office. So a lot of changes, lot of design changes across the length and breadth of the office. In workstation areas, workstations which are back to back will be moved away to 90 degrees. Once upon a time when CRT monitors were there in design, we used to always have 90-degree workstations for ergonomic reasons. Now those workstations will move 90 degrees. All the fabrics, be it the chair, be it the workstation panel fabrics, all of them will be disinfected with an antimicrobial spray. New generation antimicrobial spray technologies are being applied. Two products are very, very promising, one coming out of Switzerland, one coming out of the United States. Aegis is a company that's doing it. Very promising. The efficacy of the spray lasts in an antimicrobial environment for about 90 days to 120 days. None of them are certified for COVID-19, but they are applicable to most of the common known viruses and bacteria. Hence, we presume they'll apply over here till such time that they can come back with certifications. Plexiglass will be used wherever they can zone out areas between air-conditioned spaces. We move to photocopiers and we move to other things. We will not see as much of touch will be eliminated either by putting a human being there who's wearing gloves and operating it, or it will be voice activated. So all these devices you'll see with voice activation interfaces, very easy to do. There is no rocket science in it. Can be done. We move to the bathrooms. Already we've been using sensor faucets for hygiene reasons for the last couple of years. Urinals have been flushless, and that's also been prevalent. However, the WC flushes will evaporate and European style pedal flushes will come into force. So retrofitting of flushes will be a major thing that will happen immediately in all public spaces. And either they'll be sensor driven or they'll be pedal flushes. We move to the cafeteria. Cafeteria will no longer look the same ever again. Because cafeteria is one area which can be extremely contagious to the environment, to the spread of this virus. And so you will have a lot more service staff in the cafeteria who will behind the counters, don't allow you to touch anything. So the more we minimize the touch, the more you mitigate the risk. And so that's one area in cafeteria where you're going to see innumerable number of changes across from lidless serving dishes. All the serving buffet dishes will change and turn around. Sneeze guards will be extended beyond the micro sneeze guards that were almost like a girl's mini skirt. Now they'll go back into a larger version again. So there are a lot of changes end to end. Cabin spaces will not be used, so a lot of like hot desking. Cabins will also be circulated and rotational basis used. Work from home is going to suit to the Indian mindset. Yesterday in a talk I was talking, Indian mindset is Satsta Sundar Tikau. Our businessmen love to save money and work more efficiently. There's nothing wrong. So if now they realize a 10,000 square feet office can be managed with the same output in 3,000 square feet, believe you me, dude, none of our investors are going to allow to do 10,000 again. Everybody's going to downsize, work out rotational working, work from home. Security systems and levels will be worked out, so people can work out of their houses without risking or exposing the company to online security threat. That's another business that's going to really rapidly grow and expand. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening. And once people who come into the office, the receptions are never going to look the same. You will never have a waiting area in the reception because you will never want people to wait and contaminate your space. So you will want to quickly move people into their designated zones. So a lot of fun is going to be there. Might be carpet tiles will be replaced. Right now, it will be antimicrobial sprays, but they'll be replaced with epoxy fluorines, which inherently, like a hospital, prevent bacteria growth. Believe me, I can go on and on and on. Every product, lighting is IoT. So office will have different zones, different kind of lighting. People are in a different mood. A lot of inputs are going to be there in an office area. Office is going to be fun to design and redesign and learn from everybody every single day. A lot of organizations, see, again, it depends upon a person's way of thinking. For example, you and me, you might love to work for a branded organization and go to a fancy office of Elle Decor. That's you. Let's say I do not like traveling out of my house and I love working from home. So people like you and me might exchange jobs. You might want to go to a fancy place and I might want to just work out of my home. So I might give up a job, even in a company, organized entity or one of the big five if you're working for, because they don't promote working from home. You want to work from home. So a lot of people are going to exchange jobs. The minute job market stabilize, the economy gets a grasp of the situation, people will move and do things. If you save 4 hours a day traveling, who wouldn't want that? Your performance will improve, your output will improve. So there's so much happening. Kamna, it's so goddamn dynamic. For me,
I
it's
am just
interesting.
stunned. I am just stunned with the fact, the amount of information you've just given out. I mean, there are just so many people saying that also on the comments, but this really shows the amount of research you've put in the last 60 days. I mean, it's amazing. Tell me, I mean, I'm very curious. How have you done this? It's of course, design is the space that you are very, very in tuned with, but how does one absorb so much? Kind of just, take me through your personal process here.
I think long hours of work, being passionate about your knowledge that you're absorbing like a sponge, eliminating the noise is very, very important, because there's so much of noise in terms of information that's being thrown at you. So absorbing what is required, eliminating what is not required, having a team of inspired people who are constantly connected to you. So that's a great way. There's so much you get to learn. So there's a junior guy in my front office. He's been sending me videos on luxury hospitality, and there's so much of learning. So it's something that I never knew about. Stories of let's say Ritz-Carlton. What makes Ritz-Carlton so special? What are the Apple stores and their retail learn from Ritz-Carlton? Now these kind of stories are super critical, because these are analogies in business and case studies that will help you to improve your knowledge. So if I'm designing for a client or I'm designing my own showroom, I get into the human mindset, I get into anthropology and see what ticks human beings and what is that user experience that we keep talking about. How did Apple learn that user experience from Ritz-Carlton? Now, how can we decipher that knowledge and use it for our own advantage? There is so much of learning. It's so interesting. Each of these case studies are amazing and fascinating.
You've spoken about hotels, you've spoken about offices, but there is this one, on a global level, a lot is being spoken about de-densifying cities, and for cities to become adaptable to new realities, innovation, creation, and experimentation. India is a very, very diverse country. I mean, our levels of, our economic levels are so different. The way people live is so different. How do you see in reality cities changing and being more adaptable to this kind of a situation?
Kamna had spoken about this when I was a panelist with Mr. Ratan Tata almost a month back in one of the shows. And I'm a big proponent of reverse migration. I think reverse migration is now a reality. It is going to happen. So people who've had these dreams from rural areas and come to urban areas with this dream in their head have now enjoyed the life over here for 10 years, understood the dog's life that the city has given them. They are now craving for open spaces. They crave for the open land that they were there in the rural areas. They've understood they've been matchboxed into a small one-bedroom flat somewhere in Dahisar, Virar, Mira Road, wherever most people are put into suburbs. And against that, they've learned what they should learn to survive and commercially become a success from this city. Now they can go ahead and apply these principles back to their rural places. So they can have a larger house, they'll have a better lifestyle, their commuting and traveling distances will stop. They will not need to use public transport. They'll be very happy on their moped, two-wheeler. Today I was listening to Mr. Rajiv Bajaj talk, and he was exactly saying the sales are going to go up. And he's right. Sales are going to go up because people now, because of COVID, will not prefer public transport in the near future if they have their own mode of transportation. So people will reverse migrate for a better quality of life. And one thing that COVID has already changed for sure is all our mindsets. We started beginning to value our own lives and realize the importance of our own lives a little more and our families a little more. Nobody can deny that and nobody can challenge that.
Absolutely. And I do want to ask you this question because I remember long ago you and I had a conversation about this. It is about having the business of design separate from design and architecture as a passion. And currently we are in a space where the business of design has been massively affected. I'm talking to all kinds of firms, big, small, medium, and they all are in that one pool because work is going to be less. The demand is going to be less. What is your advice for the design studios? How should they be grappling with this situation?
I know what I'm going to say may not be acceptable to a lot of people, but I have said it earlier and I'm practicing it. I think it's time for the design fraternity to raise up and become problem solvers. We know our businesses, the income from design is not going to come in right now. But I think all those clients to whom we can go back and serve them with design solutions when they are in trouble. So you may not charge fees, you may not do anything, you might do things gratis. You will get involved with office owners. You will get involved with factory owners. You will get involved with the government on various platforms and try and be design solution providers, because our job right now is to help humanity and our country to get back on its feet and get the economy moving. If the economy gets moving, all of us have our jobs and our careers and professions. So it's our time to raise up to the occasion and try and serve. I'm doing as much as I can. A case in point, I've been talking about slum redevelopment a lot more since the last couple of years, and I really feel very, very strongly. I think it would be a good exercise for the design fraternity one day after COVID is gone to actually physically go into the most interior places of these slums and get a wake-up call. Because what we see on a Dharavi main road is not even a fraction of what really the slums are. Or to go into Kurla or to go into Sivri and understand really what slums are. Now, what I did was, before my talk with Mr. Tata, I knew no matter what I speak, the voice is going to be limited heard. But if Mr. Tata speaks, the nation is going to listen. So the only request I did to the moderator, I said, I want to talk about slum redevelopment. And I hope this is one question that you will talk. He said, okay, willingly, Jimmy. He was sitting in US. Next day, as I planned, everything went perfect, because he mentioned and the whole discussion went towards the slums, which is the cause of concern. The slums are not going to allow us to contain. The minute lockdown is lifted, it's going to again, we are talking of flattening the curve. The curve is going to go skyrocketing like a pyramid.
Skyrocketing, absolutely.
It's not going to change. Now, what are we going to do about these slums? Because 50% of Mumbai slums. We should have thought about it before we gave these people this kind of quality of life 30 years back, 40 years back. Slum Redevelopment Authority was formed 25 years back. And what has actually impacted the biggest problem, Kamna, is the government doesn't listen. A slum dweller is accepted to be a slum dweller legally prior to 1995. Majority of these slums have been habited to 4x or 5x of their occupancy post 95. Before that, there were slums, but the density was not there. So all these people who come after 95 are not being recognized by the government as official slum dwellers, and hence any kind of slum redevelopment makes it non-commercial, non-viable. So this is something the government has to change. They moved the court. Now the matter is in Supreme Court, and they're going to consider the year 2000. But to me, that year consideration should be 2015 and not 2000.
2000. You know, I've had this chat with a couple of other speakers during my live sessions, and because I know how passionately you feel about this. Do you think modular housing is one of the solutions for slum redevelopment? Do you think that is at least a part of a solution?
Kamna, a lot of construction technologies are being worked out, not just in India, but worldwide. For one, in Mumbai, slum redevelopment cannot happen in a horizontal context of the world. It's impossible, right? Like so many other countries in Africa can talk about, and South Africa can talk about, but definitely in India, it cannot be done. So we are only talking about vertical. Now, the minute you talk of vertical, construction technologies like polyurethane construction, where you can build practically a day and a half a floor, and these are prefab buildings, and they have a lot of environmental advantages because they are more resistant towards heat. They have only advantages and advantages. The overall foundation is much more leaner because the overall dead weight of the building is 1/3 of a normal RCC building. There's a lot of these advantages in new generation technologies. They're not expensive to adapt to, and I don't know. Like I said, if Slum Redevelopment Authority differentiates itself from actual development, empty the plots, let the plots be sold at the highest cost, let the developers get the most beautiful, fantastic international architects and Indian architects and take care. But people like us who really want to serve humanity and via the medium of design, I wouldn't mind being an honorary designer, architect, whatever you call, for slum redevelopment, because that's my area of concern. How can you give these people a dignified life? 300 square feet is one part. How can this 300 square feet be optimally used? How can you think of their common amenities? How can you upgrade their lifestyle? So design needs to play an important role. Most of the government projects, even today, unfortunately, a case in point is the Bandra Kurla flyover, not the flyover, the Bandra Kurla walkover bridge. So if you enter to Bandra Kurla, which is like the nose of India's corporate, new generation corporate build, right? The finest of companies are there. But if you look at the skywalk for people to cross over, it's like 1970s East Africa.
Absolutely.
So it's for all to understand that public space design has to be done very, very diligently. There are some fantastic architects in the country. They are not so expensive. And even if it's expensive, I'm sure there are lots and lots like me who are willing to do honorary work. Right
Correct.
now, we are working with the government of Maharashtra, designing the blueprint for tourism ministry for the whole state. It's my dream and our tourism minister's dream to try and propose Maharashtra to be a quality tourism state. So in India, there are tourism destinations, but not a single state has staked its claim to be a quality tourism destination. I hope post-COVID things go normal and we are able to actually put this blueprint into on paper and roll it out. We are trying to invite some of the finest consultants to work on this. Thomas Heatherwick, Ideo Design. I'm enjoying honorary just doing all of this. It gives you such a high, much more bigger high than any of your paying clients.
You know, my last question before I take viewer questions, a lot of them have come for you, so I don't want to take a lot of time here. You know, the recent speech made by the Prime Minister about the whole Made in India getting a whole aggressive push. What are your thoughts on this with regards to the design industry? Do you see the craftsmen, the local people genuinely getting benefited by this?
Kamna, the sentiments are global against the dragon. I think everybody has a huge problem with the way this China virus has impacted our lives and humanity in totality. And also, I have a second vested interest with China growing more and more close to Pakistan and supporting Pakistan and everything against India. I have a huge problem. So now my problem with China doubles up. But having said that, we do some amount of manufacturing in China. We have our factories in India. Everybody is going to try and now start manufacturing in India. It will be a great time for India because a lot of the customers will not want made in China for sure. So it's something that's going to happen. It's a reality, and the more the number of Indian companies learn from this, it's going to be better for our economy overall. I'm a great proponent of Make in India. I manufacture every piece of furniture in our factories since the last 25 years, since '97. And I've never felt the China competition difficult to defeat if you have design as a value add. If you have mass production as a value add, then yes, you are going to give in to China. But if you have design as the tool you use to compete, I don't think my factory has ever been empty or free of work for a single day in these last 25 years.
Wow. And on that note, I'm going to start taking viewer questions. One of the first questions is, given that hygiene is going to be a very, very important factor, what kind of materials do you think are now going to be more used in the design and architecture industry?
So different materials in different spaces. Like I said, the trend is going to be now learned by architects and interior designers from the hospital industry. So lots of new age materials are being used by the pharma and the hospital industry either ways. So we are talking of wall vinyls, which are antimicrobial. They can be straight away adopted to our houses, to our offices, to our hotels. We've got floorings and flooring surfaces. We've got ceiling surfaces. New age interesting materials have come up. So there is this ceiling which is gypsum board based, which releases a positive ion in the atmosphere for 30 years without electricity. Those kind of gypsum ceilings will play an important role now to keep your environments virus free. The copper can be used for door handles and knobs. New age sprays are available, like I said, with these two technologies that I'm closely following and monitoring, the US-based and the Swiss-based technology, which is being used in face masks. These sprays will definitely allow the surface to be bacteria-free and virus-free. Even if the virus comes in contact, it gets destroyed because of the ions getting exchanged between negative and positive ions. So lots and lots of new age materials which will Diversity is working overnight almost on redoing its entire chemical supply to the housekeeping industry. That will help to improve efficacy levels of its cleaning agents. Laundries are going to start using new age additives. So there is so much happening, Kamna. It's really dynamic, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity for designers to equip themselves with this kind of knowledge, put it into implementation, and at any point in time, you're like a frog in the well. The more you know, the less you know. So the more you share this knowledge, the more it comes back to you in the correct form that yes, it's worked for me, it's not worked for me.
Right. There's a question, that's an interesting question. Somebody's just asked you, I'm going to take that immediately. How do you see, so it's not a design related question directly, but it's an interesting one. Can you tell us how the whole travel will change for people and the whole second home, the whole trend of having second homes. How are these two aspects going to change according to you?
Kamna, we are very much in the second home industry. We are in a little bit in
Correct.
real estate and we develop second homes. We've got unsold inventory of 100 crores lying, looking at our faces. What will happen is people, according to me, people are going to prefer second homes. All those people who are having a reasonable quality of life in Mumbai or in Delhi or all the metros will want to move out to an area like this. Almost all the villa buyers, so we've made 90 villas, of which so far I think about close to 70 are occupied. Almost all the villa owners unanimously have tried to get in touch with us in some point in time and said, can we go to Lonavala and can we stay there? Why are we in this place, caught in this lockdown in Mumbai? Had they been there, they would have been out in the open. They would have been able to go for walks. They would have been able to take care of their health and family much better. And it's a whole open environment. So second homes will definitely tend to gain in transactions. No two ways about it. All second homes. I've also been on a couple of panel talks with real estate developers, and the luxury segment will start moving post this lockdown opens. Their sales offices have been getting calls by clients who had visited those houses and seen to ask if the house is still available. So things are going to move there. Overall scenario, it's like I said, again, it's dynamic. One doesn't know if what's applicable in China post lockdown or applicable in Spain post lockdown or in Europe post lockdown is going to be applicable in India. But going by the trends, hospitality industry will see a spike in occupation post lockdown immediately. Second homes will have more number of transactions happening. Our economy was going bad for the last 1 year plus. Either ways, and transactions were very restricted. But post lockdown, these transactions will happen. So I think I'm upbeat overall. I know it's a very difficult situation,
Right.
but I'm upbeat overall. I only hope and pray that the government supports these industries, the real estate and hospitality, both of them. Not because I'm in these two segments, but these two industries. I mean, they hold more than 20% of India's GDP. So it's hospitality is 10%, and I think government needs to pay heed to it.
You know, a lot of questions have come on sustainability and green architecture. So I'm just going to combine it into one question. How do you perceive sustainability in India? And do you think the whole zero waste concept is relevant in Indian interiors and architecture?
I think people have been very hypocritical about sustainability. Sustainability to me truly is either it's something in your blood or it's not there. You don't go ahead and put up a farce about sustainability and then go and use shitloads of wood, even though if it's coming from sustainable forest into your interior, into your building elevations or wherever else. If there are alternate materials, go ahead and use it, be true to yourself. So sustainability has to be in your DNA. Yes, look global and go local. If we can source local materials and utilize them instead of going ahead, a case in point would be pathway tiles. You can use fantastic local Rajasthan stone or stone from Maharashtra coming from within 500 kilometers of radius rather than importing Spanish tiles for pathways and rustic looking. So there is sustainability is either in you or it's not in you. You use wires and cables that will protect the environment. I mean, every single point should go through your conscience. So sustainability, architect and designer recommending a product or a material should be conscious enough of the harm to the environment and the carbon footprint he or she is going to be responsible for. So I firmly believe. I mean, it is shameful that even today in government contracts and tenders we have melamine, which is specified as a polish material. Melamine is a carcinogen. It's a known carcinogen. It continues to release urea formaldehyde for the next 2 years in the atmosphere, which is cancer causing. And even today, a lot of homes use it. I think country should have banned melamine the way first world countries have already banned melamine years back.
Right.
Even today, melamine is being huge. The consumption of melamine is, I think, 90 to 10. 10% is polyurethane, 90%
Really
is melamine. And this is something that I've been again talking. It should be banned in India, at least by the design fraternity. There should be an awareness. Any architect or designer should not be recommending the usage of melamine. And if they do, they need to be shamed by the fraternity in totality.
There's another interesting question. Do you think acrylic partitions will be used more extensively because they're more cost effective to glass?
Yeah, not necessarily. See, it's a knee-jerk reaction. Right now, everybody is coming up with a knee-jerk reaction without really learning the design thinking acts, running it through a design process. So if you just go ahead and put these acrylic partitions, they're not going to stop the virus, because air conditioning is going to either way carry the virus. If you want to really go to the top, how will you divide the air conditioning in that area without really doing structural changes to your ceiling and air conditioning ducting? So there are lots of things, but yeah, plexiglass is something that people are looking at as a quick fix solution. Though it's not a long-term solution, but quick fix solution, yes, till the time a vaccine comes and we feel more protected to have these partitions. But why create partitions? Why not get people organized and allow them to work from home and meet at a remote office and get those remote offices going? So now companies, one office will divide into 10 offices. And there'll be one central office where everybody meets, but they'll have 10 zonal offices. So if finance, majority people and the chief financial officer, let's say, stay in Kandivali, they should do an office there. So right there, they live there, they work there, they travel there. You don't pull them 2 hours to Bandra. And that will be a very effective way of working also. It will be a very effective way of mitigating risk. You don't expose your organization to getting everybody come in, somebody or the other. Yacha restaurant has just announced that in spite of all its efforts, its people have become carriers in some form.
Correct.
Now, this will happen to offices. And today, the BMC doesn't understand it's a knee-jerk reaction. They'll come and lock down the whole building.
Yes.
And you'll have multiple offices all going home, not knowing what to do next day. And
Correct.
slowly they'll start locking offices. But I think mitigate risk. Immediately get into zonal offices. Within Bombay, create 10 zones. Let each department work out of the zone. Let people work from home. Come to the zonal office twice a week, once a week, whatever it is, in the areas of their accommodation, so they don't travel across the length and breadth of the city.
There's another interesting question. There is a general notion in public that architects and designers are not accessible to the common man. How do you think the common man can engage with the design community, and how can architects and designers gain more trust of the public?
I think common man should go by the reputation of the designer. I rest my case there because I don't see any good designer in the world is not going to be accessible to the public. Yeah, he cannot be one-to-one accessible to everybody, but if his thought process is for the public, it's for humanity, his designs are human-centric. Let's take examples. Philip Stark, human-centric. Ideo Design, Tom Kelly, Peter Kelly. Everybody is human-centric. They work for humanity. Of course, they make money. Of course, they have organizations to run, but their primary reason of practice is not to make money. Primary reason is to serve humanity. And how beautifully they serve humanity and make such huge contributions to this world.
Tell me this. This is a question from my side, actually. How do you see, I think one problem that I have with Bombay is that we don't have green spaces. Like, I cannot step out in the city and also go for a walk right now. Do you think that is something that the cities are going to kind of start paying a little more attention to?
Kamna, I'd done a small TED talk. It was a very short talk. It was a TEDx talk in Mumbai where I demonstrated, I'd given some equations as to open spaces across in the world and open spaces in Mumbai. One quick fix solution for open spaces in Mumbai is every building terrace to be mandatorily by law converted into a green space. And that will open up the lungs and breathing lungs of Mumbai, because your open spaces from less than 2% will go to at least about 15, 17 or even 30% depending on the exposure. So all new generation complexes are already doing this. Every terraces are now open spaces and put to use for the building tenants. But old buildings are not doing it. And each and every old building, the terraces should be utilized is what I promote. And if it becomes mandated by the law, like conservation of water, rainwater harvesting. So if it becomes mandated by the law, they'll be compelled to do it. And that will be a fantastic way of having old people in the building, elderly in the building, kids in the building, all going up to the terrace and having that open space, taking care of the plants, getting a little bit of human element attached back to doing things that we used to do once upon a time. So it's all human-centered.
And my last question to you, so there's this question that has just come up. How can we run our sites more effectively now, as it is difficult to maintain social distancing norms at sites? So this is from an architectural design studio.
I don't have an answer to that. Social distancing norms will be there. But what you people are not realizing is due to migration of labor, a majority of projects are going to suffer either ways. You will get very minimal labor on site. All of us are in that imagination that tomorrow things open up and day after our teams will be back. Teams will need the money to come back, but contractors will not be able to generate the manpower required. and hence the manpower scarcity and shortage will be there in the next couple of months and will be experienced by all of us. I don't have anything more to add to that.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. I do want to tell you, your passion is infectious. There are just so many people here who have been inspired by you. And believe you me, I think I will go back and watch this IGTV again because I think I have missed out some points here. So thank you so much for doing this. You were brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. Stay safe. Love you all. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Jimmy. Thank you, Pearl. Bye, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Kamna.